Hello everyone. So welcome to our course on Indian modern history, and today we are starting the 25th session. In our theme 4, this is our second last session, right? Okay. So in the last session we have talked about the growth of the modern nationalism in India. How the modern nationalism has um, came about in India. The Indians start realizing that how they are related to each other, and how despite so many diversities we form a nation, isn't it? The reasons were many. It was the reaction from the British rule, the political unity which was created because of the modern transportation and the British necessity of the uniform and a convenient administration, the new leadership which was emerging among the people, the demonstration effect, rediscoveries of India's past. That means we were earlier united under the Mauryas, under the Guptas, the glory of Cholas, and all these things. And the modern education and the inspiration from the West. That led to formation, and that all these feelings led to the formation of the small institutions, right? So the institutional challenges or the institutional creation started, but these institutional were very localized in their approach, very localized in their aims and objective. Hence the need was felt that we need to have an all India organization, right? An all India organization where the aspiration of the nationalist can be put up, where they can put up questions to the Britishers and ask them questions, where they can challenge this colonial ideology and colonial mentality. They have this pre-Congress campaign, support of the Elbert Bill, agitation against, let's say, lowering of the age of the ICS, import duties, economic drain theory, and a lot of things. Okay, we have read all this. Today, we're going to read about the formation of the Congress. Before leading to the formation of the Congress, let us talk about the type of questions you can expect. Firstly, one question that I'll give you today, only one in the mains, that what are the factors which have led to the formation of the Congress? That it was not a singular event, rather it was a culmination of a lot of events which has led to the formation of the Congress. One question I have given and the solution is also being discussed. Culmination of many factors. Tick. One thing is that. Second thing, in the prelims, what questions you can expect? In the prelims, you can expect question on the Congress. Acha, in the mains, or a good question that Congress formation. This is a classical debate, that is myth versus reality. That some people say that the formation of a Congress was a creation of a safety valve for the British, or it was a genuine efforts by the nationalists to put up a national platform. So, what is the theory behind the formation of the Congress? So, there also some question can be asked, but more importantly, this type of questions you can expect. Next, in the prelims, what type of a question you can expect? In the prelims, you can expect questions on the leaders which are associated. Today, we'll talk about the moderate leaders. So, make a list of 5 to 6 leaders. I have already told you how to prepare for it. Read about them, read the first paragraph from the Wikipedia for them, and that's all. For example, Dadabhai Nehruji. Dadabhai Nehruji, you can prepare it from one of the videos that we have on the Amrita YouTube channel. That is the impetus video, personality in history. There I have covered around 9 personalities in totality. For example, Lal, Bal, Pal, all the three I have covered there. Extremists, which we'll read in the next time. So we need to read about the moderates, how many times each leader has become a Congress president. For example, Dadabhai Nehruji became president 3 times. So specifically, when he has become the president. So these are the key things that are important. You can ask question option 1, 2, 3 option And the one option they can ask this factual question. So be ready with respect to that. Okay. So these are with respect to the prelims which you are supposed to do. Then apart from that, in the prelims, we have already discussed these previous various institutions. These institutions are important. And finally, within when the Congress sets in, so under which session, what happened? Which session, any significant thing that is being discussed? That's all more important. For example, some of the sessions are important, led by Kadambini Ganguly. Then we have the session in 1906, very important session led by Dadabhai Naroji, then Surat session, and the few specific sessions which are important. So keep in mind those important things. Okay, let us discuss. Now, obviously, let's come to the leading to the formation of the Congress. Now the aspiration has been there that yes, we need an all India organization. We need an all India organization to put up our demands. ठीक? And that was facilitated by a retired ICS officer, that is A.O. Hume. ठीक? So in 1870s and 80s, a solid ground of had been prepared for establishment of an all India organization. We have seen that. The final shape to the idea was given by a retired ICS officer, A.O. Hume, who mobilized the intellectuals of the time, met them, and started the first session of the Indian National Congress in the Gokul Das Tejpal Sanskrit College in Bombay in December 1885. The Congress session used to happen in the which month? In the month of December, unless until there is special session that is being conducted. Now you'll ask me questions, sir, why this and why an British is forming an organization which will ultimately challenge the British. That was the controversy actually. That why this A.O. Hume was there, right? So we'll discuss that. So Congress met every year in December in different parts of the country each time. Some of the great presidents of Congress, Dada Bhai Nehru Badruddin Tayyib ji, Firoz Shah Mehta, P. Anand Charu, Surendranath Banerjee, R.C. Dutt, Anand Mohan Bose, Gopal Krishna Gokhale. So make a list of these leaders. The leaders which I have already covered, prepare from there, and some of the leaders you have to prepare on your own. ठीक है, because personality centric things are very very important, which everything cannot be cleared in these lectures obviously. So you have to do some homework on your own, and whatever being discussed with respect to questions in the test series and others, I will cover it in the lectures itself. So the first president of the Congress, of the first president in the Bombay, was not A.O. Hume, but he was W.C. Banerjee, was president of the Indian National Congress, presided over the first National Congress held in Bombay in 1885. In 1982, again presided over the INC session in Allahabad, proposed formation of standing committee in the Congress in each province. He himself was a lawyer. Few things about W.C. Banerjee. Then other leaders we have discussed, Grand Old Man of India, Dadabhai Naroji. His contributions can be one of the questions. I'll put up that as a question in the next turn. Other prominent leader, M.G. Ranade, Balkrishna Gangadhar Tilak, Shish Kumar Ghosh, these people. So at least prepare 7 to 8 moderate leaders or the early Congress leaders. ठीक है, कैसे प्रिपेयर करना है? Go to the Wikipedia, read the first page, 2 to 3 lines about them. That's all. Significant, which can come in the exam. Then, for example, in 1890, Kadambini Ganguly was there. First women graduate of the Calcutta University addressed the Congress session. She was not the president of the Congress, but she addressed it. So remember, she was not the president. It will take a lot of time to have the first women president of the Congress, Congress sessions. She was only the speaker there. She addressed them, which symbolizes the commitment to the freedom struggle to give the women their due status in national life. She was the 19th century doctor as well. Okay, so she was the first female doctor of India. She was the first South Indian female physician. She studied medicine at Bengal Medical College. In 1886, she became one of the two Indian women doctors qualified to practice Western medicine in India. So, few facts about her as well. Kadambini Ganguly. Because now you see where UPSC is going with respect to modern history. The core thing. Now all these things have been asked, saturated. Now they're asking a bit peripheral thing. So what are these peripheral things to know about these leaders? These leaders which are not too much discussed in your basic textual books. Now, now coming to the discussion. That what about this A.O. Hume? Why he is there in Congress? Two theories have come up. First theory that has come up, that is known as the safety valve theory. Second is the lightning conductor theory. The idea is very simple. Just understand it and then you are done. Just like in a cooker, है ना, cooker होता है, flame cooker. There is a safety valve. ठीक? So the pressure that builds up because of this heating, pressure builds up, and then safety valve goes off. सीटी बजती है, the सीटी in the cooker, the when you cook the rice. If that safety valve is not there, what will happen? If that safety valve is not there, it will, the steam will build up, and it will blast. So safety valve is against, first of all, the blast. Okay? So we provide a safety valve so that we can prevent a blast. If we apply the same analogy to the Indian context, obviously this heat is what? This heat is the British repression, British policy, British discriminatory policies. This heat will be on. British knew it. This steam will build up. British knew it. There is bound to be Indian reaction. They know it. They have seen the reaction, the blast in the form of the 1857 revolt. कि भाई revolt तो होगा. There will be reaction from the people. But how to prevent that reaction to come? How can we prevent that reaction? How can we make sure that we keep on applying this heat? It keeps on boiling, but we keep on providing a vent out box. And they said that we'll provide this vent out box through Congress. What do we mean by that? For example, I am very unhappy with you. I'm very unhappy with you. You have been torturing me for many days, years, let's say. I'm about to just blast on you. But before that, you have given me a platform. Acha Rashesh, do this thing. I'm giving you a Google form, anonymous Google form, and fill that form. So मैंने अपनी पूरी भड़ास, whatever I wanted to say, I just put on the Google form and I'm just send it. And I said no actions will be taken. So what happened? All my anger, frustration just went away. Why? Because I found an outlet of my resentment. You can compare it with the dissent in the democracy, or you can compare it with the election in the democracy. In the elections, also said to be the safety walls of the democracy. When the people are unhappy, for example, India against corruption after the Congress, in the Congress, UPA 2 government, people were unhappy with the central government. Corrupt, doing this, nothing doing for the people, working for the corporates, and all these things. So during the election, they came and just wiped them out and brought Mr. Modi into government. Similarly, Supreme Court has said that the dissent is the safety valve of democracy. That if there is no dissent in the democracy, if we cannot put up our voice, freedom of speech and expression, if we cannot criticize the government, slowly and slowly it will build up and it will destroy the democracy. People will take up violent means to showcase their anger towards the government. So this is the idea of the safety wall. So this is the first theory. First theory is that a Congress was made, or it was a strategy by the Britishers to work with the AO Hume, to work with the intellectuals of that time, to make sure that these intellectuals do not give leadership to any movement which can become a blast. Okay? So the intellectuals needs to feel that they have a voice. Intellectual needs to feel that their voice is heard. Intellectuals needs to feel that they are giving they are able to channelize their anger towards the British, and they are able to extract some concessions from the British. They need to feel that okay, no need of going like 1857 revolt. So this is the theory of the safety wall. Second is the theory of the lightning conductor. इसका क्या मतलब है? What do we mean by that? The lightning conductor means the other side of things. Now, it shows that the Indian people or the Indian leadership of that time knew that it is very difficult for an all India institution to exist. It is very difficult because if we create an all India institution and if we start saying that British are doing that, British are doing this, then it would be repression from suppression or repression from the Britishers will be felt. So they said, okay, under the pretext of the AO Hume, if we have the AO Hume, so it is kind of a shield, you can say. If we have the AO Hume in the front of our organization, the Britishers will feel, okay, fine, nothing to be worried about. And in that manner, we will be able to create an all India organization and make people more aware about the British rule and all these things, or able to improve the nationalism, penetrate more feeling of nationalism in India. So these are the two theories which are believed to be behind the formation of the Congress. Alternatively, very quickly, let us see. So let us see the safety valve theory. So safety valve theory says that it was a theory that now we'll spend time already. We've spent a lot of time in discussion. Let's quickly. So Hume formed the Congress with the idea that it would prove to be a safety valve for releasing the growing discontents of the Indians. It's a safe, mild, peaceful, and the constitutional outlet given to the Indians so that the blast does not occur. To this end, he means A.O. Hume convinced Lord Dufferin not to obstruct the formation of the Congress. A.O. Hume worked with the Lord Dufferin, who was the governor viceroy at that time. The extremist leader like Lala Lajpat Rai said that this is the safety valve theory. He said कि भाई safety valve theory है. But modern Indian history, however, dispute the idea of the safety valve. In their opinion, Indian National Congress represented the urge of the politically conscious Indians to set up a national body to express the political and the economic demands of the Indians. Safety valve theory ko they ignore. They say that it's not the safety valve, but it is the lightning conductor. Okay? So they use the A.O. Hume as a catalyst to create this institution. Okay? Making sure that the lightning of the British repression, if we do anything, does not hamper us. So the Indians had convened such a body on their own if there would have been unsurmountable opposition from the officials. Such an organization would not have been allowed to form. In such circumstances, Bipin Chandra observes that early Congress leader used Hume as a lightning conductor, as a catalyst to bring together the nationalistic force, even if under the guise of the safety valve. So it may look from outside, or it may look from outside that it is a safety valve, but it is in essence is what? A lightning conductor. Tick. Chal. Congress, now we discuss the objectives of the Congress. What will be the objective of the Congress? These are the words which will you need to prepare, है ना? So no questions will be asked that what will be the objectives of the Congress, but at least 5 to 6 key terms which is there, you need to remember them. For example, political propaganda, political education, making people politically aware, creating an all India organization. Okay, venting out Indians demand. So these are the important terms that you need to prepare. Let us see. So found a democratic nationalist movement, politicize and politically educate people, propagate, develop and propagate an anti-colonial nationalist strategy, है ना? Then carefully promote and nurture nationhood, develop and consolidate feeling of the national unity, and unify people over a common economic and political program. So 3 to 4 key terms, and that's all. That what was the idea behind the form, or what was the objective of the Congress. It will help you in your somewhere writing mains exam conclusion or your body part. Now, let us talk about the leadership of the Congress in the starting years. The leadership of this Congress in the starting years were known as the by the leaders, which were later on known as the moderates. Right? Obviously, in the starting, they will not be known as moderates, but later on, as compared to the new leadership, they will be termed as the moderates. Examples being Dadabhai Nauroji, Firoz Shah Mehta, D.E. Vacha, W.C. Banerjee, S.N. Banerjee, who dominated the Congress politics during the early period. A staunch believer in liberalism and the moderate politics, and came to be known as the moderates, and distinguished themselves from the extremists, which will come as the second leadership in the within the Congress. So the first era of the leadership in the Congress were known as the moderates. ठीक है? So why they were known as moderates? Some of the basic characteristics why they were known as moderates. First of all, they believe that the British rule or the Britisher itself are not unjust, because they have seen that what is happening in Britain, they follow a democratic culture, parliamentary culture, democratic culture, respecting the human rights, civil liberties, but they're not doing so in India. So they believe that Britishers are just, but it is just that they are not applying that rule into India. Or the people who are sitting in the Britain do not know about the situation in India. They don't know that what is happening. So what is happening in India, nobody knows. So they want to make sure that we need to convey this information from India to Britain. We have discussed that when we are discussing the drain theory of Jadabhai Nauroji. Take. So first moderates believe that British are just, because these moderates were mainly trained, or the moderates were the intellectuals of that time, and the intellectuals were trained in the Western education, Western ideas. So they say that by if India wants to progress, they can progress only under the British rule. So they did not challenge the British rule. So they did not talk about the independence. So independence was nowhere in their map. That India needs independence from the British. No, not at all. British rule is fine. They just need to be reformed. They just need to be transformed according to the needs of the Indians. That's all. So their main focus was trying and transform the British rule. Transform the British rule through persuasion. Persuading the Britishers. This is your moderates. So moderates political activity involved, and how to persuade, not agitate, not confrontation. So persuasion, not confrontation. So when they have to persuade, they will call for the constitutional agitations. Let us see. So moderate political activities were involved constitutional agitation within the confines of the law, showed a slow but orderly political progress. Moderate believe that British basically wanted to be just to be Indians, but are not aware about the real conditions. Therefore, if the public opinion could be created in the country and the public demands were to be presented to the government through resolutions, petitions, meetings. Authority will concede these demands gradually. That maybe they are working as an armchair rulers and they don't know about the real condition, the real demands of the Indians. Hence, we need to put these petitions, protests, prayers to the British. Please, please do it. Please, please do it. Please, please do it. Like that. Within the confines of the law. No mass meetings, no big movements, nothing like that. Just need to convince the Britishers that these are the Indian demands and you should fulfill them. So to achieve that, they work on the two-pronged methodology. First, create a strong public opinion to arouse the consciousness, national spirit, and educate and unite people on the common political question. And second, to persuade British government and the British public opinion to introduce this reform in India on the lines laid out by the nationalists. So they have laid out a plan ki bhai, we need all these things and you need to work with us. You need to work with us, or you need to work towards finding out our aspiration and accepting those aspirations. They use the method of prayer and petition, protest, and all these things. And if they failed, they resorted to the constitutional agitation. Then, few of the things that they have created, a British committee of the Indian National Congress was created in London, because they're talking about also focusing on the opinion of the British public. If the British public will get to know about the situation of India, then the public will create pressure on their political parties. Their political parties, it will become an election issue. When it will become an election issue, the people will, when it becomes an election issue, the people will take it seriously and then their demands can be met. The similar works were done by the Dadabhai Naoroji. For example, his East India Association, for example. He became MP in the British. Then he voiced the opinion of the India. In 1890, he decided to hold a session of Indian National Congress in London, but owing to the British election 1981, proposal postponed and never revived again. So this was the tactics of the moderates. So they believed that the political connections with the British were mainly in the India's interest at the stage of that history. And the time was not ripe for direct challenge to the British rule. We should not put a direct challenge to the British rule. It was considered to be appropriate to try and transform the colonial rule to be close to the national rule as possible. So make sure that we transform the colonial rule so that they resemble that some sort of a national rule, means it is not a colonial rule, should not look like. So that is why they talk about this drain theory and all these things, so that the British should realize it. British should rule it in the interest of the Indians. If we talk about the contribution of the moderates, so the contribution of the moderates, so in moderates, what you need to remember, first of all, in moderates, you need to remember first of all, what is their perception, what is their method, which we have read, and thirdly, what is their contribution, and lastly, what is the challenges or what are the issues with the moderates. That's all. So if you look at the contribution of the moderates, it can be divided into political and economic. So this is economic contribution, and rest you can divide everything as their political demands or the political contribution. So political and economic. Within the political, you have Indian Council Act of 1892, democracy strengthened, civil rights and press freedom, ICS reform, and economic critique, that is drain of wealth and all these things. Let us look at one by one. So till now we have read about the Regulating Act. We'll continue this Regulating Act 1784, 1793, Charter Acts and all this. Then 1858, 1861 and now 1892's term has come. In 1861, we have seen that an element of decentralization has started, right? Legislative decentralization started. You also have now the Legislative Council, and under the Legislative Council, Representatives of the non-officials have started to come. Three Indians were appointed as the representatives, nominated representatives in the legislative council, not in executive. No Indians in executive for now. Tick means no Indians in the that time of Modi government or the council of minister or the cabinet. You can remember. Parliament mein now they are trying to include the people. The legislative council was expanded. 12 members were there, official and non-officials. Obviously, official majority is very high. Non-officials will be very less. Now the moderates have seen the 1861 reforms. What will be their idea? So the idea of the moderates will be to reform this setup. Tick. Now, legislative councils have no real power till 1920. We will see in other reforms also till 1920, though no real powers were there. Yet work done by them by nationalists helped the growth of the national movement. Though there was no real power, but they were also the means of the propaganda for the nationalists, where they can showcase their own, for example, making the deaf hear. Similarly, like Bhagat Singh, he knew that he will not get justice in the court, but he used the court as a tool for the political propaganda. So, Imperial Legislative Council, constituted under the Indian Council Act of 1861, was an impotent body designed to disguise the official measures as having been passed by a representative body. What does this mean? Now, Cabinet has decided something. The executive. They will also send the proposal to the legislative. And after it will be passed. The highest authority is with respect to the cabinet, obviously. Legislative was just a means to showcase that the official, no, we are not imposing anything. We are having some representative body. Let us see. Like China, imagine. What Xi Jinping had decided, that will happen. But they have a parliament. They have an election to the parliament. So the legislative bodies were impotent only. Could not do anything. Could not check the executive. The parliamentary accountability, nothing that sort was there. Only 45 Indians were nominated from 1862 to 1892. And those were the loyal, wealthy, landed, and the loyalist interest. Only handful of the political leaders and independent intellectuals such as Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, Krisudas Pal, V.N. Mandle, K.N. Nulkar, Raj Bihari Bose were among the nominated. So two names you need to remember, that is Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and the Raj Bihari Ghosh. Then the formation of the Congress was formed. They have seen that 1861 Act, nothing actually happening. It was a measure to disguise the official act as being passed by some representative body. They said that कि भाई हमें तो we need expansion in the council. So council needs to be expanded. First, more Indian needs to be there. And secondly, this council needs to be empowered more. इनको ताकत दो. Give them more power. For example, control over the finance so that they can discuss budget, they can vote over the budget. So greater control over the finance. Remember the drain theory. So early nationalists worked with the long-term objective of a democratic self-government. And their demands were meant to be conceded in 1892 in the form of the Indian Council Act. By Indian Council Act, what they have done, they have some sort of accepted the demands of the moderates. Hence, we can say that by the moderates, one of the achievements of the moderates is this Indian Council Act of 1892. In 1895, INC was founded. The Congress saw the reforms of the council as the root of all reforms. It was in response to Congress' demand that legislative council be expanded that number of the non-officials were increased both in central and the provincial legislative council by the Indian Council of 1892, but official majority remained. By number we will increase, not an issue, and non-official members we will increase. Within that, two type of members are there: official and non-official. Non-official members we will increase. Okay, fine. But official majority will remain. Majority will be the official, non the non-official. Then some of the things, legislative councils were enlarged. It increased the functions of the legislative council and gave the power to discuss the budget and address question to the executive. Means you can put questions to us within certain limits to executive on the matters of public interest after giving the 6-day notice. So they can put up the questions to the Britishers, but they cannot vote on the budget. Remember, so voting power has not been given on the budget. Yes, you can go ahead and discuss the budget, but you cannot vote on the budget. What about these non-official members? These non-official members, these non-official member will be, how they will be selected? First at the central level, then at the provincial level. At the central level, by the Viceroy on the recommendations of the Provincial Legislative Council and the Bengal Chamber of Commerce. At the provincial level, by the governors, by the recommendation of district board, municipalities, university, trade association, and all this. So a semblance of an indirect election is there. So this made a limited and indirect provision for the use of election in filling up some of the non-official seats in the central and the provincial council, but the term election was not used. So these are the few key lines that you need to remember. Ki bhai, election word was not used. Some limited form of election, some limited and indirect provision on the use of the election was there. Okay? So this is Indian Council Act of 1892. Done. So this is the important 2 to 3, 4 lines with respect to 1892 Council Act. These reforms was obviously severely criticized by the Congress sessions, where the nationalists made no secret of their disaffection. They said, by voting power to di nahi aapne. They were not given us the voting power, which we have required, which we have demanded. Why you have not given us this voting power? We demand this voting power. Not given. So the demanded majority of the elected Indians, ki by Indians official majority you have kept. This is also not good. We do not like this official majority. Why the non-official majority is not there? Control over the budget. They gave the slogan, no taxation without the representation. Dadabhai Naroji, Gokhale, Tilak, they all demanded the self-government on the lines of the Canada and Australia. The leaders like Firoz Shah Mehta, Gokhale put government policies and proposals to severe criticism. British has intended to use the councils to incorporate the more vocal among the Indian leaders, and so as to allow them to let off their political steam, while important councils could afford to remain deaf to their criticism. Matlab, these leaders, these vocal leaders, will go to the council. Britishers have thought. They will speak, they will let off their political steam, whatever they want to say, and they will be empty. They are done. But nothing will be done. So this was the perception of the Britishers. But it is said the nationalists were able to transform these councils into the forum for venting their popular grievances, for exposing the defects of the indifferent bureaucracy, for criticizing the governments on various policy and proposals, raise the basic economic issue, especially the public finance. Obviously, though these were important bodies, but Indians have used this for the expressing their opinions. The nationalist was able to enhance the political stature and build a national movement while undermining the political and the moral influence of the imperialist rule. They helped in generating the anti-imperialist sentiment among the people. So the people can see how these councils and what these leaders are speaking. We have already rolled the role of the press. So in the newspaper, it used to print and the people used to read it, that what these leaders are saying, library movements and all. But the nationalists failed to widen the democratic base of the movement by not including the masses, especially the women, not demanding the right to vote for all. And this is where we'll also see the problems with the moderates, because they did not believe in the capacity of the masses, that the masses can be involved in the movement and they need to be mobilized as well. Then we talk about the second contribution, that is the economic critic. We have already discussed in detail about the economic critic, the train theory, right? So let us very quickly just discuss it. So early nationalists, Dadabhai Nauroji, R.C. Dutt, Deen Shawwacha, others carefully analyzed the political economy of the British rule and put forward the drain theory to explain the British exploitation. They opposed the transformation of a self-sufficient Indian economy we have discussed in detail into a colonial economy. So they were able to create an all India opinion that British rule was the major cause of India's poverty and economic backwardness. That why India is poor, it's because of the Britishers only. To mitigate the deprivation characterizing Indian life, they said that severance of India's economic subservience and the India's needs to be developed as an independent economy. So subservience to the British, that we are subservient to the British, just an agriculture appendage to the British colonial economy, we should not be there. We should be our own independent economy with our own independent capital, with Indian enterprises, especially the heavy industries needs to be there in India. Apart from that, they have the other demands such as reduction in the land revenue, abolition of salt tax, improving the working condition of the labor, military expenditure reduction, encouragement to the modern industries through tariff protection and direct government aid. Next is within the political, that is the reforms in the ICS and the other political demands. So they say that by indigenization of the government service needs to be there. Indian needs to be included. Why? Because these Britishers who are working, first of all, they are taking very heavy salaries. So when they're taking such heavy salaries, so it is not economical. Secondly, they are taking these salaries to their home, not in India, so it is a drain. And thirdly, when you are excluding the Indians, it is discriminatory. It is a racial discrimination, it is a racial profiling, and it is injustice. So you do not put Indians into the position of trust and responsibility, which is a injustice. We are bound, we are should be ruled by our own people. Okay? And this on the different grounds, they have said that indigenization of the Indian civil services needs to be there. Other things, that is separation of judiciary from executive, and a criticism of an oppressive and tyrannical bureaucracy, criticism of an aggressive foreign policy, because all that is costing very heavily on the Indian treasury, call for increase in the expenditure on the welfare, health, education, and all this, demand of the better treatment for the Indian labor abroad, in the British condition, in the British colonies. So these were the demands of the other political demands of the moderates. Protection of the civil rights including the right to speech, thought, association, and the free press. Through incessant campaign, the nationalists were able to spread the modern democratic ideas, and soon defense of the civil right became an integral part of the freedom struggle. So from the starting itself, they were a very staunch supporter of the freedom of press, civil rights, and all these things. For example, the arrest of the Tilak, we have discussed that press within the press freedom. So it all led to the consciousness of the people. He was given the title of Lokmanya and all these things. Now we evaluate the moderates. We have seen the contributions of the moderates, but there were a lot of shortcomings in the approach of the moderates. First of all, the very perception that the Britishers are just was said to be a very narrow perspective. First, let's pause some positive things, that they were the most progressive force of that time. Of the time they represented 1885 to 1900. They were able to create the national wide awakening, feeling of belongingness to the nation, popularize the modern idea, undermine the moral foundation of the imperialism. Political work were based upon hard realities, not on the shallow sentiments or religion, like the socio-cultural movements. They were able to establish the basic political truth that India should be ruled in the interest of the Indians. These things they have done. They created a solid base for more vigorous, militant, and mass-based national movement in the years that followed. But they failed to widen the democratic base and the scope of their demands. So these are the few key lines that you need to remember that what moderates have done. The failure can be seen in many directions. First, the base, they did not believe in the capacity of masses. That masses are what? They are poor, they are ignorant, they don't know about what is good for them. Hence, masses should not be included. First, they need to be made aware, then later on, they can be included. Extent, they were largely confined, limited to towns and the cities. Methods were also very important methods: conference call, discussion, prayer, petition, and all these things. Their demands were also very pacifist demands, were there, not complete independence. Ideas were dominated by the Western political thinking, and social composition was elitist. That means the leaders were very elite, very intellectuals, not belonging to peasant class. So, for example, the question of the peasants remain far away from the discussion. है ना? So these, or they form the very secondary or tertiary level of the discussion, which should be at the primary center of their demands, which was not there. So masses. So moderate phase of the national movement had a narrow social base and masses played a very passive role. They lack political faith because they believe masses are ignorant and very conservative ideas and thought. They feel that this heterogeneous element had first to be welded into a nation. So they believe that India is not a nation yet. India is a nation in the making. First, we need to make people aware, political education and all these things, education and all these things. Then only they can be involved into the national movement. But they fail to realize that, here the important line, that it is only during the freedom struggle and with the political participation that these diverse elements could come together. When and only when you have these diverse elements coming together, then only you can have a very good freedom struggle movement. Okay? Role of masses: because of the lack of mass participation, the moderates could not take a militant political position against the authority. The later nationalists differed from moderates precisely on this point. There, the extremists will say that moderates, you have done this wrong. Why they are not working with the masses, right? Why are you not taking a very militant route, or why are you not confronting the authorities? Why are you working on these positions of prayer, petition, and all these things? These things will not work. These things are not right. Okay. Now, lastly, what is the attitude of the government to this? Earlier, the government has said, okay, fine, when the Lord Dufferin, you know, A.O. Hume was there. But later on, within 1 to 2 years, they started to see कि भाई Congress is getting very political in nature. Then they saw, then they become hostile to the Congress, right? Despite the latter's moderate methods and emphasis on the loyalty to the British crown. And after 1887, it became more stiff because the government has told the Congress कि भाई you discuss only the social issues. Why are you discussing these political issues? But Congress said no, 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 no. We will discuss the political issues as well. Hence, the government resorted to the open condemnation of the Congress, calling the nationalists as seditious Brahmins, disloyal Babus, and all these things. ठीक? Dufferin called Congress a factory of sedition. They adopted the policy of divide and rule. So, for example, they work with the people such as reactionary people such as Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, Raja Shiv Prasad Singh, and they organized a United India Patriotic Association to counter the Congress propaganda. Later on, we will see they will work for they will try to divide within the Congress, moderates and the extremists. They will give some carrot to the moderates. कि भाई देखो देखो देखो, we have done this reform. And the extremists will say, no, 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 this reform is not enough. We need more. The moderates will say, Arey, de to diya, what they have done? They have given us something. And it will create a divide between the moderates and the extremists later on. Take. One of the statement of the Curzon, if you see, that Congress is tottering to its fall, and one of my greatest ambition in India is to assist it to a peaceful demise. That happened in the time of the Curzon when the extremist and the moderate dissensions were growing. ठीक? So with this we finish our session. So today we talked about the formation of the Congress and the moderates within the Congress. Let us see few questions. So the first question is, the Congress was not founded in a day. It was a culmination of the political awakening that happened during the 1870s. It's a really good question. It's a really good question. Try to attempt this and please do see the solution. So this discussion link I have shared with you all. Click on the link, see the solution. Okay, make notes from it. And this is how you will prepare slowly and slowly for your mains exam. This question is also very important to understand something with respect to the mains exam. For example, previously UPSC has asked question on the 1857 revolt, the culmination thing leading to this. So what is to be written here? For example, a lot of students commit a mistake to write all the political organizations in this question. That should not be done. Next question. What do you mean by the un-British rule? Discuss the role of the Dadabhai Naoroji in exposing the evils of the British rule in India. ठीक, इसका भी discussion है. So this is again the discussion has already been done. Please see this discussion and you will be able to get to know it better. ठीक. So with this we finish today's session. In the next session we will talk about the role of the extremist. ठीक. Is this session number 25? We'll talk about the role of the extremist, and with that we'll finish the theme 4 as well. See you all in the next class. Till then, bye bye. Thank you.